Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Things EarthCache channel, the only YouTube channel to focus on EarthCaches. The goal here is to explore locations that contain EarthCaches and to pass along some EarthCaching tips and tricks along the way. If you like that sort of stuff, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. So this is the second of 3 videos about riding EarthCaches. If you haven't seen that one, it might be helpful for you to watch it first, but you can also just dive right in at this point. So the goal of this video is to really lay the groundwork towards publication. We're going to cover idea generation, topics that are acceptable, and just as important, unacceptable, some ways to get permission from the landowner or manager. So these are all the things that you got to do prior to really start the writing. And by the end of this video, you may have questions. If so, you can leave them in the comments below or simply reach out to me. Are you ready? Let's get into it. So let's start with a quick review. Now, I know this may seem basic, but what is an earth cache? So it's not just a scenic view, although many can bring you to some pretty amazing places, but they can also be found in some more mundane areas. But an earth cache is supposed to highlight a unique geological feature or process, and ultimately, it's there to teach an earth science lesson. Bottom line to me is an earth cache explains why the geological feature or process, this thing that you're observing, why is it like that? When you answer that question, you have your lesson, and then everything else will focus off of that. So, where do you start? Right? This is kind of the heart of this video. So I think there are 2 basic ways. You either find a potential location and then do the research, or you can learn about a variety of geological features and processes and then figure out where a good example is located. I've used both methods in the past, but I tend to gravitate towards finding a location and then doing a research. For either method, though, there's a ton of resources out there. Obviously, the internet is going to be one of your best ones. In Georgia, the Department of Natural Resources has dozens of geological guides and reports. Nearly all of the earth caches that I own are in state parks, and it just so happens that there are geological guides for those parks. The National Park Service also has a great website with reports online. So I'll leave the links for these both in the description below. Perhaps a trip to your local bookstore, natural history museum, or library is in order, right? There's plenty of books that are available to help you form some ideas or to start your research. Now, one of my secret weapons is the Roadside Geology series. Not every state has one, but many do. The great thing about this series is that it provides you both a lesson, or at least something to kickstart your research off of, and a very specific location. How about your local university geology departments? So years ago, I reached out to the department head of the Earth and Space Science Department at our local college. I explained what earth caches were and asked him if he could potentially help me. That led to him giving a presentation at a meet and greet, as well as a follow-on field trip around the area. Like most people, he loves to talk about his passion. He also invited me to sit in on his Geology 101 class for a semester. Now, I realize that not everybody has time to do this, but were you also aware that there are free geology classes available online, including one offered by MIT? You can also reach out to the staff of your local or state park. They might have someone that handles public outreach or education. Making contact with the staff can also support your efforts later on when you're trying to secure permission. Does your park system have a geological walking tour? Just like the roadside geology books, on a walking tour, you're basically unlocking the lesson and the location at the same time. So go sign up for one, take some notes, ask some questions, talk to the guide, and see if you can follow up with additional questions if needed. Again, people love talking to others about their passions. Explain what you're trying to do, and you never know, they might just help you. Geological associations. Most, if not all states, have a geological association. Again, simply reach out, explain what you're trying to do, that earth caches are sponsored by the Geological Society of America. Perhaps they'll support your efforts. Fellow geocachers. Reach out to your fellow geocachers. Ask for advice or support. I've done that multiple times, and I've been surprised by how generous they've all been with their time. Now, before you start buying books, taking classes, making new friends, I recommend becoming familiar with what are the acceptable and unacceptable topics out there. The last thing you want is to spend hours scouting a location, doing the research, writing everything up, sending it in for submission, only to be told that it's an unacceptable topic. So you can find the full list in the Help Center at geocaching.com. And please note, these are all subject to change. If you're unsure about a topic, and I'm going to say this multiple times, reach out to your local EarthCache reviewer. I've found them to be very helpful. If you don't know who your reviewer is, I'll leave a link to the reviewer coverage map in the US in the description. Here we have the current list of unacceptable topics. So as you can see, there are some exceptions available. In addition, there are a number that are still acceptable. They're not shown here, but you'll need to make a case for why. So these are going to include building stones, watersheds, river confluences, waterfall classifications, and more. In essence, these categories have been done time and time again. So while it's possible to create a new one, there's a higher chance you're going to have issues with it. Again, definitely reach out to the local EarthCache reviewer and simply ask. So, what if I have an idea that I don't see on either list? Great question. I think you're probably good as long as you don't see it here on the naughty list. My best advice, again, reach out to the reviewer and simply ask. As with all geocaches, permission is required since they can only be placed in locations where cachers are allowed to enter. I strongly recommend securing permission before you start doing your research. Obviously, this part of the process happens only after you find a suitable location. If you feel that permission is not required for some reason, I would verify this with the reviewer beforehand. Sending a short email could save you hours of time and loads of frustration. Finding a landowner. So if you're having problems finding a landowner, best recommendation is to go online and try to pull up the information via some public websites. If you have a better way of finding this out, please feel free to leave it below in the comments or reach out to me via the messaging center. I'm happy to make a follow-on video covering this topic. So this is why I like using public land when possible. It's far easier to locate the park manager and explain what you're trying to do. For Alabama state parks, there's an application you can fill out, making this part of the process super easy. The geocaching guidelines state that you should include the name, title, and contact information with your submission in the reviewer notes. In my experience, sometimes a phone call was involved. In that case, I've just simply provided the contact information and when we spoke. So real quick note about indoor and vacation earth caches. Indoor earth caches are allowed, but I've typically found them that they're basically generally discouraged. Vacation earth caches are also allowed. So you're on a vacation, you come across a great location, and you'd like to create an earth cache. No problem. But now you have 2 months to do everything. We'll talk about the logging tasks in a future video. But for a vacation cache, while you're on location, you may want to start drafting some initial tasks. I also recommend taking some photos of the location to help you out later and kind of remember and refresh your memory. Okay, so we're done with the second video. Now, at this point, you may have some questions, and if you do, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. Down below, I'll post some of the research links that I've used in the past to get my Earth caches published. Feel free to share with me any links that you might have as well. I would love to have more resources in my kit bag. Also, if this video has been useful or helpful, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget, you can also connect with me on Instagram and Facebook. The links will be down below. So, only one more video to go. Are you ready? We'll see you then.